In 2013, 17-year-old Kendrick Johnson, a high school athlete from Valdosta, Georgia, was found dead in his school gymnasium. His body was discovered rolled up inside a vertical gym mat, with only his socks visible. What initially seemed like a tragic accident quickly spiraled into a storm of controversy and unanswered questions. Authorities ruled Kendrick's death an accident, claiming he had reached into the mat to retrieve a shoe, got stuck, and suffocated. But his family refused to accept this explanation, citing numerous inconsistencies and suspicious details in the case. Kendrick's face was severely swollen, and his organs were missing during the autopsy, replaced with newspaper, a shocking and unexplained discovery. A second independent autopsy commissioned by the family revealed signs of blunt force trauma, conflicting with the initial findings. Surveillance footage from the school's gym was incomplete and mysteriously edited, fueling theories of foul play. Some believe Kendrick was attacked and his death was covered up, possibly involving other students or staff. Despite lawsuits and repeated demands for further investigation, the case remains unresolved. Was Kendrick Johnson's death a tragic accident, or is there a darker truth hidden beneath layers of secrecy? His family continues to seek justice, making this one of the most hotly debated and chilling cases in recent history. In 1922, the Gruber family of Hiterkifeck, Germany, was brutally murdered in one of the most chilling unsolved crimes in history. Days before the massacre, Andreas Gruber found footprints leading to the house, but none leaving. He also heard strange noises in the attic, but no one was ever found. On March 31st, an unknown killer used a mattock to savagely murder Andreas, his wife Cecilia, their widowed daughter Victoria, Victoria's two young children, and the family's maid who had just arrived for her first day of work. The killer lured the family members into the barn one by one before attacking, and the 2-year-old boy was later killed in his crib. Disturbingly, the murderer stayed at the farm for days after the killings, eating meals, lighting fires, and caring for the livestock. The bodies weren't discovered until neighbors noticed the family's absence and investigated. Despite interrogating dozens of suspects over the years and modern forensic efforts, no one has ever been identified as the killer. Was it someone the family knew? A stranger passing through? Or someone who had been lurking in the shadows for days? The Hiterkifeck murders remain one of the most haunting unsolved cases in history. In 2013, the world was shocked by the discovery of 3 women, Michelle Knight, Amanda Berry, and Gina DeJesus, who had been held captive for over a decade in a house in Cleveland, Ohio. Their captor, Ariel Castro, had lured them into his home, where they endured unimaginable abuse. Ariel Castro, a seemingly ordinary man, kidnapped Michelle Knight in 2002, followed by Amanda Berry in 2003 and Gina DeJesus in 2004. Hidden in plain sight, Castro maintained a facade of normalcy in his neighborhood, while keeping his victims chained, starved, and beaten in his house of horrors. The women were repeatedly assaulted and lived in fear, their lives stolen in the confines of Castro's home. Their escape came in May 2013, when Amanda Berry managed to break part of a door and scream for help. Neighbors responded, calling the police, who rescued all 3 women along with Berry's young daughter, born in captivity. Ariel Castro was arrested and later pled guilty to over 900 criminal charges, including kidnapping, rape, and aggravated murder for forcing one of the women to miscarry. He was sentenced to life in prison plus 1,000 years, but was found dead in his cell a month later, having taken his own life. This horrifying case of resilience and survival became a symbol of hope and awareness, sparking conversations about abuse and the unnoticed horrors that can exist behind closed doors. In 2013, 21-year-old Canadian student Elisa Lam vanished while staying at Los Angeles' notorious Cecil Hotel, a place infamous for suicides, murders, and its ties to serial killers like Richard Ramirez. Her disappearance gained worldwide attention after the release of unsettling elevator footage showing Elisa behaving erratically, pressing buttons, gesturing wildly, and seemingly hiding from someone unseen. 3 weeks later, Elisa's body was discovered in a rooftop water tank after guests reported foul-tasting water. Her clothes were found floating separately, and the tank's lid, allegedly too heavy for her to close alone, was shut. The autopsy ruled her death an accidental drowning, citing her bipolar disorder as a factor. But unanswered questions remain. How did she access the locked roof? Why wasn't the alarm triggered? Was someone else involved? Elisa's chilling death and the dark history of the Cecil Hotel continue to spark theories of foul play, supernatural forces, and mental health struggles, keeping this case a haunting enigma. Dorothea Plante, remembered as the killer landlady, ran a Sacramento boarding house in the 1980s that became the final resting place for several of her tenants. Behind her grandmotherly demeanor lurked a calculating killer who preyed on the weak and vulnerable. Puente opened her home to elderly and disabled individuals, many of whom had no family or support system. She offered them a safe haven, but quickly took control of their lives. After persuading tenants to sign over their government benefits to her, Puente drugged and killed them to keep the money flowing. She buried her victims in shallow graves in her yard, disguising the odor with quicklime and maintaining her innocent facade. Over the years, her suspicious behavior, including multiple disappearances and foul odors from her property, raised alarm among neighbors and social workers. However, her charm and excuses kept authorities at bay. In 1988, after a tenant named Alberto Montoya was reported missing, police searched her property. To their horror, they uncovered 7 bodies buried in the backyard. Puente denied involvement and even calmly offered tea to investigators. While under suspicion, she fled to Los Angeles but was recognized and arrested. During her trial, Puente maintained her innocence, claiming the deaths were either accidents or the result of natural causes. However, prosecutors revealed her pattern of exploiting her victims for financial gain, drugging them with lethal cocktails, and covering her tracks. She was convicted of 3 murders, but was suspected of killing at least 9 others. Sentenced to life in prison, Puente died behind bars in 2011 at the age of 82. Her boarding house, still standing, remains a grim reminder of the evil that lurked beneath a kindly exterior. In 2008, the disappearance of 2-year-old Caylee Anthony captured national attention and became one of the most controversial true crime cases in U.S. history. Caylee lived in Orlando, Florida, with her mother, Caylee Anthony, and her grandparents. But in June 2008, Caylee vanished without explanation. For 31 days, Caylee did not report her daughter missing. When her mother, Cindy Anthony, finally called 911, she revealed that Caylee had been gone for a month and that Casey's car smelled like a dead body. Caylee provided conflicting stories, including claiming a nanny named Zenaida Fernandez Gonzalez had abducted Caylee, a claim that was proven false. 6 months later, in December 2008, Caylee's skeletal remains were discovered in a wooded area near her home, wrapped in a blanket with duct tape around her skull. The tragic discovery deepened the mystery surrounding her death. Caylee Anthony was charged with first-degree murder. During the trial, the prosecution argued that Caylee had killed Caylee to escape the responsibilities of motherhood, while the defense claimed Caylee drowned accidentally in the family pool. The trial captivated the nation, but in a shocking verdict, Caylee was acquitted of murder and manslaughter charges, sparking outrage. Though Caylee Anthony walked free, Caylee's death remains unsolved, leaving a nation heartbroken and demanding justice for the little girl whose life was cut tragically short.